If you were hosting a conference on leadership and you were tasked with picking the keynote speaker, who would you schedule? Money is no object, so who would it be? Maybe a U.S. president or a Super Bowl winning quarterback? Maybe the senior pastor of a megachurch or the CEO of a huge corporation? That rules me out. My credentials are unimpressive. I'm a middle manager, just one of the millions of nameless, faceless people that fill countless positions in business, church, sports, and government. I can't recall ever being the point guy for anything. Even as a kid, when we had a secret club, I was at best second or third in command out of 3 kids. For some reason, I seem to find my way to the middle of any group I'm involved with. Whether it's on the job or in church, I've served in middle management most of my life. And yes, in my family, I was the middle child of 3 boys. There was a time in my life when I found this fact discouraging. I sometimes felt like a failure for never being the top dog. But that all began to change when I discovered the Roman Centurion in Matthew 8 and Luke 7. A Roman centurion was an officer in the Roman army in charge of about 100 men, and he had ranking officers above him with a chain of command going all the way up to the emperor of Rome. Let's pick up the story in Matthew chapter 8, verse 5. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. "Lord," he said, "my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly." Jesus said to him, "Shall I come and heal him?" The centurion replied, "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, 'Go,' and he goes, and that one, 'Come,' and he comes. I say to my servant, 'Do this,' and he does it." When Jesus heard this, he was amazed, and said to those following him, "Truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith." Then Jesus said to the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you believed it would." And his servant was healed at that moment. Did you know that this was the only time in the Bible when Jesus marveled at someone's faith? This was the only person that Jesus commended for having great faith. Who was he? How did he get such great faith? The only thing Scripture tells us about him is that he was a man under authority with soldiers under him. He was a middle manager. Every day this man carefully followed the direction of his superior officer while exercising his delegated authority over others. As a Roman soldier, it is unlikely that he had any religious training or knew much about Scripture. But there is something about being in the middle of an authority structure that allows a person to understand leadership from both sides of the picture, being under authority and being in authority. And that is exactly how faith works. We'll explore that subject further in other devos. When men choose a leader, they look for someone with a powerful magnetic personality. Throughout history, that is the type of leader men tend to choose. From politics to street gangs, from sports teams to drug cartels, even in our churches, we want someone we admire to lead us. We long to follow someone inspirational. But in the life of David, we learn that God is not looking for leaders with personal charisma. So what does God want in a leader? David, the model king, is introduced to us in the Bible against the backdrop of King Saul. This is no accident. It is meant to be a contrast. King Saul was rejected by God because he only did some of what God commanded. Saul wasn't a complete rebel towards God. He just felt it would be okay to tweak God's instructions with his own opinion. After all, he was king. But God rejected him and chose David, saying, "I've sought out a man after my own heart." Translation, I found somebody that will do what I tell him. You can read about it in 1 Samuel chapter 13. When King Saul was told by Samuel the prophet that he was losing his job as king, Saul spent the rest of his life clawing to hang on to the throne. The position was more important to him than being right with God. He would murder people and consult with a witch in his efforts to subvert or delay the will of God. By contrast, David had a revelation that all authority comes from God. When his kingship was challenged by Absalom, David sought to know God's will. He understood that he was not irreplaceable, for this was God's kingdom, not his own. Although David was crowned king of Israel by men, in his own heart and in his mind, he was just managing the nation for God. God was the true king of Israel. That is what God wanted in a leader 3,000 years ago, and it is what he is looking for today. Whether we are called to lead a nation, a church, a business, or a family, I believe the key to godly leadership is to understand that God owns that entity while we manage it. To do this, we must learn to walk under God's authority and walk in our God-given authority. Like David, we must become middle managers.